Okay, let's start with a wild thought. What if I told you that you are actually made of trillions of tiny, bustling cities? Well, today, we're going to take a tour of one of them. We are going right inside the cell. So, let's kick things off with a pretty huge question. What are you really made of? And I don't just mean, skin and bones. I mean, what are the fundamental living building blocks that make you, well, you? Believe it or not, the answer is you're made of trillions of tiny, bustling cities. Seriously. Each one is this complex, self-contained metropolis. It's got its own government, power plants, factories, transportation, the whole shebang. We just happen to call them cells, and for the next little while, we are going to be your tour guide. And just like real cities, these cell cities aren't all one size fits all. Not at all. Some are like these tiny little villages. Think of an immune cell that's acting like a scout, super small. But then you have others that are these massive industrial hubs, like a cell in your bone marrow that's, get this, more than 30 times wider. The diversity is it's incredible. All right, so every good city tour has to start somewhere, right? We're starting at the city limits. We're gonna go check out the border control, the very wall that defines what's in and what's out, the plasma membrane. So the plasma membrane, it's like the cell's skin, its border patrol, and its main gate all rolled into one. It's this super flexible double layer of fatty molecules. We call them lipids. The best way to picture it? Think of a really sophisticated self-repairing soap bubble that holds the entire city inside. Pretty cool, huh? And its job is, well, it's absolutely crucial. It's the bouncer at the door, deciding what gets in and what stays out. It's covered in these receptors that are basically satellite dishes, picking up signals from other cells. Plus, it anchors the entire internal structure of the city. To put it simply, no membrane, no city. End of story. Okay, we're past the gates. Let's head inside. We are now officially entering the cytoplasm. This is the main cityscape, and we're going to check out its amazing infrastructure. So what is the cytoplasm? Well, it's basically everything inside the city walls. And it is not empty space, not by a long shot. It's filled with this gel-like stuff called cytosol, which is just packed with proteins and nutrients. And all throughout this landscape, you've got the city's buildings and facilities, which in biology we call organelles. So what holds all this stuff together? That would be the cytoskeleton. Now, this isn't some rigid skeleton made of bone, oh no. It's this constantly changing dynamic network of protein filaments. A better way to think of it is like the city's steel girders, its roads, and its railway lines all combined, giving the city shape, support, and a transport network that can be totally rebuilt in just minutes. It's incredible. And this internal scaffolding, it has different parts for different jobs. You've got these narrow, local streets. Those help the cell move and change its shape. Then you have these super tough steel cables that give the city its tensile strength, kind of like a suspension bridge. And finally, you have the really wide superhighways. These are for transporting the heavy cargo all the way across the city, and they are absolutely essential when the cell needs to divide. Okay, next stop on the tour. Let's head over to the industrial heart of our cell city. We're going to the factory floor where all the essential goods get made. So the main factory complex here is called the endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER for short. And it comes in two flavors. First, you've got the rough ER. It's called rough because it's studded with these tiny workers called ribosomes, making it look all bumpy. This is the city's main protein assembly line. Then you have the smooth ER. No ribosomes here. It specializes in other stuff like making lipids, detoxifying nasty substances, and storing calcium. It's kind of like the city's specialized chemical plant. So once all this stuff is made in the ER factory, where does it go? Well, it heads to the Golgi apparatus. And this right here just shows you how efficient the cell is. The Golgi is like the city's central post office and its finishing department all in one. It takes those raw proteins and lipids from the ER, and then it modifies them, sorts them, and packages them up perfectly for delivery. The whole process is just this beautifully organized production line. Okay, look. Step 1, the proteins get built over on the rough ER. Step 2, they get shipped in these little membrane bubbles, we call them vesicles, over to the Golgi. Step 3, the Golgi does its thing, processing and packaging them up. And finally, step 4, new vesicles pop right off the Golgi, just like a fleet of delivery trucks, taking the finished products exactly where they need to go. So efficient. No city on Earth can function without power and sanitation, right? So for our next stop, we're visiting the cell's power plants and its high-tech recycling centers. Okay, so check this out. On one side, you've got the mitochondria. These are the tireless power plants of the cell. They take in nutrients and they just churn out ATP, which is the chemical energy that powers pretty much everything in the city. And on the other side, you've got lysosomes. These are the city's super sophisticated recycling centers. They're filled with these powerful enzymes that break down waste, invading germs, even old, worn-out parts of the city itself, recycling all the raw materials. Nothing goes to waste. All right, for our final stop, we're heading to the most important building in the entire metropolis. This is the seat of government, the command center. We're going to City Hall, better known as the nucleus. Yep, the nucleus is Command Central. It's basically a secure, double-walled vault that holds the city's most precious possession, the master blueprints for everything the cell is and everything it does. We call that blueprint DNA. And it's from right here that the nucleus directs every single activity in the city. But here's the thing, this DNA isn't just a messy pile of scrolls lying around. No way. It is meticulously organized. The super long strands of DNA are carefully wrapped around these proteins called histones, and together they form this compact, organized material called chromatin. So don't just think of blueprints, think of a perfectly cataloged library. And just like in any library, some books are out on the main shelf and others are locked away in the archives, right? It's the same here. The blueprints that are being used all the time are kept in this loosely packed form called euchromatin. Think of those as the easily accessible files. But the blueprints that aren't needed right now, they're packed away super tightly as heterochromatin. That's the deep archive. And in a typical human cell city, this entire vast library of genetic information is neatly organized into one specific number of volumes, 46. We call these volumes chromosomes. And get this, there's even a special department inside City Hall called the nucleolus. And what's its job? Its job is to build the ribosomes. You know, the actual workers that get sent out to that rough-yar factory we saw earlier? That's right. The government literally builds its own workforce. How wild is that? And with that, our tour of the cell city comes to a close. So let's just do a quick recap. We've seen how cells are like these amazing microscopic cities. They've got a plasma membrane acting as a selective border. The ER and Golgi work together like a factory and a shipping center. Mitochondria provide the power, and lysosomes handle all the waste. And at the heart of it all, the nucleus is the command center, holding that precious DNA blueprint. But all of this leaves us with one final, really fascinating puzzle to think about. Every single one of these cities in the empire that is your body, I mean, everything from a muscle cell to a brain cell, has the exact same master blueprint in its nucleus, the exact same DNA. So how in the world do they end up becoming so incredibly different and specialized? Well, that's a great question, and a story for another time.